take it. So they got along with everyone. But if we know the history of the slaves, that we relied on God to get us through all the things, even Martin Luther King, Malcolm, we relied on God. When I went to school, we didn't have this type of violence because we were able to say God's name in the pledge allegiance to the flag. Now it's everyone trying to raise themselves, cities and states, the constitutions of all different states. Now everybody wants their own law. That means if I want to eat pickles, I should be to eat pickles. If I don't love God, I shouldn't have to talk about God. Whatever happened to God? And the chief that's on the phone, I'm sure when they swear their police officers in, do y'all use God's name anymore, or is it just to America?
No, it's God's name is you.
So why isn't the churches pushing? Because it works so well, regardless of people who believe in God or who don't believe in God. But I do, and I know how the world. Only time people using God's name for those people is when they are in a funeral or when something happens bad to their child.
And that's what this nation was built on.
Quite a bit in pornography too, but
right,
that's another subject.
Well, I mean, they make fun. They make fun, but I know what helped me in my life.
Well, and you know what? I can appreciate that. I actually, since we have kind of taken a turn towards the religion, I kind of want to get a couple more people involved in this conversation.
Kevin, can I finish my point? I wanted to finish my point to the Queen. That I asked her about the anti-black racism. My specific question to anti-black racism was, does it contribute in a major way to black-on-black crime? I wanted to answer either yes or no because I wanted to give a reply.
No, it does not. White supremacy is the reason for all of this, what you say, black-on-black crime. Again, that's a historical fallacy. That's
okay.
Dealing with facts. More whites have killed whites than blacks killing blacks. We just see more of that because the media is infatuated with perpetuating racist stereotypes of black males. CNN does it. Fox News and Friends does it. So anti-black racism is this ideology that white Americans, is in our DNA. It is in our DNA. We are trained, we are taught to fear black, and if we go into law enforcement, then we are automatically going to fear black males. Therefore, we are going to shoot more often black males, regardless of whether or not they have a weapon on them. So we need to address the fear and this anti-black racism that is permeated in the American narrative if we talk about police brutality and crime and everything else that we've been talking about today.
Well, maybe I'm missing the mark because I'm not completely understanding. Can you give me and I guess everybody else, a historical definition for anti-black racism? Because maybe I'm just not.
A Yale historian by the name of David Bryan Davis has identified 4 cultural preconditions for anti-black racism. First, it's in our religious and philosophical heritage with Christianity and Judaism and the Christian Bible. It is in chattel slavery, race-based slavery. When Africans enslaved in the New World, they were brought over here and recreated as just a forced labor class. And Spaniards and Portuguese and English and the Dutch and the French, they looked at Africans as nothing more as a forced labor. So they looked at the color of their skin as a cultural precondition for enslavement. It is also in our philosophical traditions with the Enlightenment. Thomas Jefferson, his notes on the state of Virginia. It's in scientific racism. It's in anthropology. So these are the examples of what anti-black racism, and it carries over into other institutions like law, like the police, the law enforcement institutions, and also educational institutions as well. So this country, the foundations of our country, was really founded on anti-black racism. Our first laws described black Americans as chattel property. Mm-hmm. No other law was passed.
How true.
And they just,
how true.
And that was it.
Right. Right.
And actually, now, if I can add something before we shift gears, because we do have some time. We do have some time, and we're gonna touch on a lot of subjects today.
Right.
I believe that if Darwin had came up with the concept of natural selection, and that the African was not considered to be the choice for natural selection. So this is something that's been going on for a long time.
Kevin, a historian by the name of Cedric J. Robinson, is very clear on his book, The Black Marxism and the Making of the Black Radical Tradition, that when Africans were stolen from Africa, we didn't just steal African bodies, we stole doctors and lawyers and educators, and we turned them into what he calls the Negro, and I put that in quotations. And the Negro had no history, had no language, had no culture. So that is coming out here into the West, and we learned that as an American nation. Like, our founding documents do not include Black Americans. Our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, all lives do not matter in the historical narrative at all.
So, well, I need to chime in with one question, Peter.
Not only that, but we also have to look at the fact that the word Negro was the word that was used by the conquistadors.
It was, and that's what Cedric J. Robinson, absolutely. And that's why I say, as an educator, I put it in quotations, because that is a stereotypical term to determine that Africans had no past, which they did. Obviously, our whole world is centered and was built by Africans.
But people, one thing we're forgetting, this is DJ Smooth chiming in again. If you take a people and you separate them from where they came, you separate them from their history, you separate them from who they are, you separate them from knowledge of self, then you can take a people and you can control that people. Is that not true, that when they brought us over, they separated us from who we were?
Absolutely.
So therefore, you have a nomadic race of people.
You're absolutely correct, DJ Smooth. You can't take a people and you recreate them so they are just a forced labor class. And that's why people have so many problems with the understanding that this nation was built on slave labor. They can't fathom that. So we take them from Africa, we turn them into a forced labor to do what Englishmen should have been doing in the first place, which was to build this country.
Now,
do you have a proactive solution for that?
What are some of the solutions? Because, we've already talked about the symptoms. Now, what can we do going forward?
Kind of hurt everybody.
What's that?
Because we have so many people on. And I was thinking we have time to get to the solution phase if DJ Smooth will permit that. But I kind of want to get some other voices in because we have a lot of listeners, and I want everyone who called in to be heard. My next question would be, considering what we're hearing and what we've heard, are we dealing really with racism, or is that the distraction, and classism is really the issue? And I'd like to hear from the co-chair of the Panther Party, my queen, Darnisha Foster. Then I would like to hear from Clint Collins with 618 Studios. And then I'd like to hear from John Fairhurst with Anonymous. So, Darnisha, Queen, if you would, could you answer that? Are we dealing with a distraction? Is race the distraction, or is it the issue?
Okay.
I'm hoping she's
That's a very serious question. When it comes to race, it can be viewed as both.
I'm sorry, Queen. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As I was saying, when it comes to race, I don't think it's a distraction. Not at all. We do have issues with profiling regardless of who it is, whether it's a black person, white person, Asian, it doesn't matter what the ethnicity is. Race still plays a major role up in these issues, when it comes to profiling. However you choose to exclude it, it's still, in the end, it's going to be something that we've dealt with from the beginning of time, and we still deal with it now. Whether it's from police brutality, whether it's just from dealing with racial slurs, or just a neighbor person that's, dealing with racial issues, from that to dealing with it in school, it can also be self issues of race, racial. You have a lot of people that have self-hate, when it comes to their own complex or whatnot.
Right.
Being the fact that racial could play a major role when it comes to profiling with police brutality and one being pulled over, I think it just comes with fear. When it comes to a lot of our black youth and black men, period, a lot of stories have been told about, the black man and how he's, gang banging and how he's fearless because he's fearful because, the size, you fear him because of the size of the height that he's carrying or just the weight or whatever, or just even the pigment. There's different things that they can view as being a racial part of profiling. It doesn't necessarily have to be the color. Just going out and thinking that this person is bigger than you and you automatically have to come with force or anything like that. To me, that's some type of form of racial profiling too as well. Putting them in the area just because they're big, now you got to use some type of force or something. I can't say that I don't think it's not an issue because deep down in my heart, I have 3 boys myself, including I have a grandson. I see things daily. I also seen, black guys act out, in a manner where they use bad judgment. We all have that at times, especially when you're dealing with fear. Just as much as the issue of the person with the gun in their hand may be afraid, the person without the gun is just as afraid. A lot of times my son, he's had an incident, as a child, and dealing with that, he's rode in the ambulance and all that, and the police had to come and all that due to his incident. As now he's 10, that happened in 9 months. At 10, he runs from the police now. And it's not so much that he's done anything. It's just off the fear because who knows what goes through his head when he sees him. He's probably thinking danger or something has happened. Or, something that's going to happen. Just because of, the situation he was placed in as an infant. So it's different mentals and they play out different ways depending on the situation. So when it comes down to that, yes, I do think that racial profiling is an issue and being a racist is still an issue, still today. In 2016. And with that, I yield my mic.
And my brother, Clint Collins, let me get your thoughts on this, man. You've been patient, and I know you.
I love checking up information, though. I was like, because at the end of the day, it has been, we have been program. Like they said, this started back in, this has been just a chance happening. Like wake up and just start shooting each other, They've been doing it. I didn't as many whites killed, as many whites as blacks killed as blacks. But what she said was on point. Is the media, to bring it to our attention. I think what happened is for real. This is my word of mine. I think like the only time white people believe black people were getting mistreated was by a chance of somebody having a video camera showing Rodney King getting the hell beat out of him. But that's all they saw. And that was one time, and you haven't saw anything like that since until social media came out. And social media had every black person with a phone camera taking pictures. So all white people are not bad. We know it's the power of the big, but these people are seeing that, these blacks ain't been lying. They've been getting fucked up for real, So a lot of that being seen all over the United States, after a while, people they're not just making this up. We actually see this man on camera running for his life, not aiming a gun backwards or nothing, and a cop ain't the nothing of him. And these people see this guy in New York just selling cigarettes, that's not the worst crime in the world. And they choking the man.
Everybody else is selling cigarettes.
Right, so hold on one second.
You all, can I interject for just a brief moment?
What I'm saying is, what happened, I'm thinking is, these people are breaking down and saying that, hey, these folks not lying. And then they also said black people post up where a white guy is on the ground and forces his way up, swinging, punching cops, and after all of this here, he gets arrested and put in the back of a car unharmed. So I think what's happening now with the police shootings I actually personally think they're doing it to setting people up so they can have some balance now. And now the white people are like, well, hold on, wait a minute, these niggas are crazy. Because it's too much showing one side of us getting abused and killed for no reason other than something maybe small. But then now you got, because I'm seeing the way these white folks are talking about, damn it, police lives matter, and they all upset. But none of them were this upset over all these blacks to get killed. You know what I mean? So I think now,
actually, to tell you, just because I'm going to throw something in here, and John, we coming to you in a second because you stood face to face with police when you were doing the Million Mass March, which is coming up, and I do want you to let everybody know when that is. But even our president, you know, even though he had already planned this trip to Poland, you know, decided to cut his trip short once the incident in Dallas happened.
Yes, sir.
Now, prior to that, 2